Hey, what's up? It's time for another isometric drawing tutorial. And this time it's something special. We are going to create an isometric plant. But not just any plant, it has this cute little frog living inside of its pot. Creating an isometric drawing like this with more organic shapes and round shapes is a bit more challenging. So this is more like advanced isometric drawing, but we won't be adding a crazy amount of elements. We are keeping the rest pretty simple. And of course, I will be guiding you through every step. So if you just follow those steps and if you pause every once in a while, you should be able to create this. And while I'll be keeping it pretty simple for this tutorial, of course, you can add a whole bunch of stuff to your drawing. You can get inspired by the other isometric drawing tutorials we did. So you can combine all your isometric drawing skills and get to the next level. Now for this tutorial, I'm using a canvas that is 3,500 pixels by 3,500 pixels. And first we are going to turn on our isometric drawing grid. So let's go to the wrench, then to canvas, then turn on drawing guide, and then tap edit drawing guide. And then here at the bottom, turn on isometric. And we are going to set the grid size to 135 pixels. So tap it, 135, and then tap done. And then turn on assisted drawing and tap done here at the top. Oh, by the way, I'm going to turn up the opacity and the thickness so you will be able to see my lines. Otherwise, they might not show up properly on camera. So I'm going to set it to 53% opacity and 82% thickness, but you can definitely set it to a lower value. And perhaps I'll set the color to a dark blue. And then tap done. Now first, we are going to create some guides that will help us create the pot and the plant. So nothing fancy yet. First, grab a color. And it can be any color you like. We are just going to use some different colors. I'm going to start with a bright blue. And then for the brush, I'm just going to use the Flotastic Sketcher. But you can use any sketching brush you like. And the opacity is at 100% and the size is at 15%. And we are going to start here down in the center. And then we'll go up one spot. So we'll go here. Right, this little intersection. And then we'll go in this direction 5 steps. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we'll do that in the other direction as well. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we'll do that here as well. But we can pretty much see where that intersection will be. So it's 5 steps again and over here as well. Then we are going to pick a different color just to keep things a bit organized and clear. I'm going to switch to a red color. But you can pick your favorite colors here. It really doesn't matter. And now we are going to start here at the top and we are going to move 7 blocks. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So now we have a line that is 7 blocks long. And we'll do that in the other direction as well. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we can pretty much see where we need to end up here. So that's about there. Make another line and then connect these two. And this will be the top of the pot. This will be the top plane and this will be the bottom plane. But right now these two just look like a red and a blue diamond. We are going to make another one. I'm going to switch my color. I'll make it a bit orange. You can also go for pink or whatever. Orangey color. And now I'll make one diamond that is a little bit smaller than this red one. So we are going to go in between 2 blocks. So we'll start about here. And then go there and then stay in that middle line, well, right in the center between 2 lines, so that you get a diamond shape that is a little bit smaller than the red one. Then we are going to switch color again. I'm going to go for a green color because we are going to create the plane that will be the top of our plant. First we'll start over here, and then we'll go up 3 steps. So that's 1, 2, 3. We'll start here, and then we'll go in this direction 6 steps. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We'll do that in the other direction as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then to the center over here. And connect these two. So now that we have these, let me move them up a little bit. Now that we have this, we are going to create some circles. And they will also be used as guides. We are going to create them on a new layer on top of this one. So let's tap the plus. And let's just grab a dark color, like a very dark gray or black. Again, doesn't really matter. And now we are going to draw a circle. So draw a circle, hold your pen in place, tap one finger on the screen to create a perfectly round circle, like this. And now we are going to distort this. We are going to go to the arrow here, the move and transform tool, and set it to distort. Let me turn off snapping here. And now let's first make this follow that red guide that we have created. So align these corners with the corners of our red diamond shape. So right now it's following the isometric grid. Now we are going to duplicate this circle. So let's go to the layer menu, slide to the left, tap duplicate, then go to the move and transform tool again and set it to uniform. Now we can make this a little bit smaller by using this handle and make it align with the orange diamond. So make those edges of the circle touch the edges of that diamond shape. So something like this. You can nudge it a little bit like this. Now let's duplicate this layer as well. So let's go back to the layer menu, slide to the left, tap duplicate, and then back to the move and transform tool. Now we'll move this all the way down and we'll make it a bit smaller to make it align with our blue diamond. We'll duplicate this layer as well. So go to the layer menu, slide to the left, tap duplicate, then back to the move and transform tool. And we are going to move this one upward a little bit, but let's turn on snapping for that so that we can nicely move it upward and keeping it centered. So we'll go for something like this. And let's make it just a little bit smaller, like this. Then we'll tap the arrow to get out of here. Let's go back to our bottom layer, layer 2 here. That was the big circle. Let's duplicate that again by sliding to the left, tap duplicate, then go to the move and transform tool and move this downward to about here. All right, tap the arrow again. Now we need a circle for the top of our plant here. Now for each of these circles, you can either duplicate a previous circle or you can just make a new layer on top by tapping the plus, and then you can make another circle. Hold your pen in place, tap one finger on the screen, and then go to the move and transform tool and set it to distort. And then you can align the corners with the grid, with our green diamond. Now one final duplication. Let's go back to the layer menu, slide to the left, tap duplicate, then go back to the move and transform tool, set it to uniform, and let's make this one a little bit bigger. Something like this. We'll move it downward to about here. Now let's make sure that it's nicely centered like this. And that's like the big volume of our plant. And tap the arrow. Now we have all the guides we need to start drawing, to start sketching out our isometric plant. Now to start doing that, let's first merge all these circle layers. Let's pinch them together so they are all on one layer. Let's lower the opacity of our colored layer here. Let's go all the way to 30%. And then for the top one with the circles, let's lower that as well. Let's go for 70%. And then create a new layer on top by tapping the plus. And here we are going to sketch out our little tree-like plant in a pot. So let's start by zooming in a little bit, and let me make the color a little bit darker. I'll go for black. And then let's follow this line, for instance. Of our pot. That's the top of our pot. And then as we come here, we need to go downward, but I'm going to go a little bit more diagonally. So I'm cutting a part off. And I'll do that on this side as well. Cutting off a part to get a nice angle there for our pot. Then we'll connect these two parts. And then here we have the top area of our pot. And here as well, let's sketch that out. And you can rotate your canvas to make it easier. So here we have the top area of our pot. And over here, what you see is the inside. There's some dirt, so you can make some wobbly lines. Just like this. And then we need to connect the bottom part of the pot with the top part. I do feel like maybe we can make this a little bit thinner, a little bit smaller. And the way to do that is by just going to layer 2 where we have those circles. We can then tap the S shape ribbon, the selection tool, and we can select these 2 circles. Close the selection, go to the move and transform tool, and then we'll use this handle to make it a little bit smaller. Make sure that it's nicely centered. Then go back to layer 3 where we have our sketch, grab the brush, and then let's connect this. We're going to go a little bit to the right here near that edge, and then make a line going downward to that bottom circle, and on this side as well. And then we are going to follow that rounded shape. That's the bottom of the pot. And here we'll make a line as well, because that's where we'll see the inside of the pot. And let's make that opening. So we'll make a bit of a wiggly line going up. It's like the entrance of a cave. Some jagged shapes. Something like this. And then on the inside, you would see a curved line for the wall. So now we have our pot. Now it's time to work on the plant. For our plant, let's start at the top. Let's start here and let's make a bit of a simple cloud-like shape, but we are going to follow that circle a little bit. And you can go outside of the circle a little bit in some parts. Doesn't have to be following that circle perfectly, but this way you get it into that an isometric perspective. You can make them a little bit longer here in the front. Perhaps make this one a little bit longer. And then we are going to go to the sides. We'll follow the circle a little bit, and then make a shape like this, and some wiggly shapes in the center. Then we'll go down here. And on this side. And in the center, we'll make some of these almost like simple butt cheeks. Then for the bottom part, start here, make a wavy shape towards the center here. We'll go downward, something like this. And then here we'll start with our, it's like a little tree trunk. This plant, it looks a bit like a tree. We have another bonsai tree here. Let's start here, make a bit of a wiggly line down towards the center of the pot. Then another one here. So it looks like this, and then make a wiggly line here for that dirt. And here at the top, we can make some more of these leaf-like shapes. We can make some more here. Now that we have this, we can turn off our guides. Let's turn off the bottom layers like this. So we have our sketch. You can also erase these layers, remove them if you need layer space. And on this layer, let's first grab the brush and then tap and hold the eraser so that it's set to the Flotastic Sketcher. And let's erase these center parts here, just to make our sketch a little bit more clear. And now let's sketch in some extras. We are going to sketch in a little ladder. We are going to sketch in our little froggy friend and some stuff in its house. And let's do that on a new layer so it's easy to erase any parts of what we are going to sketch. Let's just first create our ladder on a new layer. So go to the layer menu, tap the plus, and then we are going to sketch out a ladder. We are just going to do that here on the side. First, we need to grab our brush. Then let's make a vertical line like this. You can tap your finger on the screen to make sure that it's perfectly vertical. Then another one right next to it. It's a little bit thick. I want it to be a little bit thinner. Then some rounded shapes on the top and the bottom. And you can either draw another one like this, or we can just slide down with 3 fingers and use duplicate and then move it to the right. I guess I have a little thingy here on the left. I don't know. It shows up as if this shape is bigger. Let's place it over here. Then go to the layer menu. Let's pinch these two together. Then grab the brush again. And then let's make these lines. Try to keep an equal distance between them. But this is like a playful illustration, so no need for perfection. Something like this is fine. It's a little bit long at the bottom, so let me just cut off a part of our ladder. We can just grab the eraser, erase this, and erase these spots here that I have. Okay, just erase this. And then once you have a ladder in this perspective, we can just make it follow our isometric grid. I do want to make sure that I don't have anything on the outside of the ladder though. So let's go to the selection tool, use freehand and select our ladder. Close the selection, use invert, then go back to the layer, tap the layer and use clear. Now we're sure that we only have the ladder on this layer. Then go to the move and transform tool, the little arrow, set it to distort, and then let's make it follow our isometric grid. So we need to have that line follow the diagonal line of the grid. So that should look something like this. Let's place it about here. Perhaps it's a little bit big. We can just use uniform here. Make it a little bit smaller. Move it around. I think this looks fine. Let's tap the arrow again. And then let's sketch out the stuff inside of the house, like our little froggy. Let's do that on a new layer again. So tap the plus and then make sure you select a brush. And then let's first draw a little circle here for the head of our froggy. Then a little rounded shape here for its body. You'll have a little arm here. It's a very simple frog. The little legs. So just simple shape. Here at the top we have its eyes. So two rounded shapes and its eyes. And he has a smile on its face, of course. He's living inside of a plant in a beautiful world. So he's super happy. He doesn't have a lot of space, but he's content. He has shorts on, so what else would he want? So now we have our frog. Let's also add something like a futon bed. Maybe it's just like a sleeping bag. I don't know. He doesn't need a lot, this frog. Just a shape that's following the grid. Here it has an opening. But like I said, you can use the other isometric drawing tutorials as inspiration. Let's make a vertical line here. And we'll move in this direction. There's a little cabinet here, I think. We are just seeing that underside. And let's add a little rug. Again, following that isometric grid. But you can grab elements from the other tutorials and put those inside of its house. Here's a pillow. So a rounded shape with some like stitches. And he's reading a book. This guy, he has all the time in the world, so he's reading a lot of books. There's one open over here. And there, I think that's enough stuff in his house. Like I said, you can definitely add more, or maybe you want to add more details around a tree, but I'll keep it like this. Now, what we can do is we can clean up our sketch a little bit. We can go to layer 3 where we have our plan sketch. We can grab the eraser and, for instance, erase this part so we can see our frog's legs. And over here, we can erase some stuff for our ladder. That'll make it easier to create our line art. If everything is nice and readable, we can do the same actually on layer 5, where we have all that stuff. Use the eraser and erase the inside of the book here. And for our pillow, this should be readable enough to create our line art. Now, before we start creating our line art, let's turn off our drawing guide. We don't need that anymore. Let's also add some color to our background, a very subtle color. We'll go to the layer menu, then tap background color and use this first one in the first row, a very subtle blue. Let me actually merge these sketch layers. And then we'll lower the opacity. So let's set it to 30%, or you can set it lower or higher, whatever you prefer. Then tap the plus for a new layer, and that's where we are going to create our line art. And when I started out creating this little plant world, this little isometric plant drawing, I just started out with one color for my line art, and then at the end I changed the color of the line art. You can easily do that by setting your layer with the line art to alpha lock and then painting on top of it. But in this case, since I have already figured out the colors that the line art need to be, we are going to use those colors right away. So we'll start out by adding lines to our little tree, our little bonsai tree, and we are going to do that with the second color in the third row. And then for the brush, I would like to use the fine liner brush, which is also part of the treasure chest brush pack and of the illustration brushes, which you should also have. I'm just going to grab it over here, the fine liner brush, but you can use any inking brush you like. Perhaps you would like a more smooth look, or perhaps you have another favorite inker, then go ahead and use that. I have this brush set to 100% opacity, and I'm going to set the size to 13%. And then let's go in and create lines for our tree. We're just going to follow our sketch. Try to make nice swooping lines. And it really doesn't have to be perfect. It's okay if you have some gaps. You can add some character. Over here, some extra leaves. You can also add some small ones, some extra touches. And as always, you don't have to exactly follow your sketch. You can add some extra touches, or you can skip some parts. Add some extra wigglies. So this is fairly easy. The hardest part was the beginning, to get everything in the right perspective. And then once you have your sketch, the relaxing, fun part starts. And it's just a matter of coloring everything and adding the lighting effects later on, which is also a super fun part in my opinion. So just some little wigglies. I think this looks perfect. Maybe make this one a little bit thicker. I do want to be able to use this line art layer as a reference to color everything. So I do want the shape on the outside to be closed. Now let's move on to the tree trunk. Let's switch to the next color, the third one in the third row. And let's just follow this line. Make it a little bit wiggly. Then we have this dirt. And let's also add a little bit of interest to this bark by adding some wavy lines, just a few, something like this. Then for our dirt over here, just some wobbly lines every once in a while. And let's also add some to the dirt here. So we didn't need to sketch this out. These are just very simple shapes. I think you can come up with these. Then let's move on. Let's move to the next color, fourth color in the third row. We are going to use that for the pot. So let's start here on the outside. Rotate your screen if you have to. Try to not go over the line of the plant. If you do, then you might need to grab the other color again to clean that up a little bit. And for this area, I would like to add a few gaps. Just skip some parts of your line to make it a little bit more playful. I do want the outside line to be closed though. I'll do this again. Yeah, that's looking fine. Then this one. Follow all the lines. I always find this pretty relaxing and satisfying. to just look at these nice thick lines, bringing the piece to life. I'm going to tidy this up a little bit. All right, then move on to this area where our little frog is sitting. Let's just skip that area a bit where its feet are. And now we have this area. Again, let's create a little gap like this. I think we can also skip that area where the ladder is. Then we have this gap, the entrance of this home of our little frog. And then we have this line of the interior. I think this is fine. Let's switch to the next color. This one over here, that's the 5th color in the 3rd row. We are going to use it for the ladder and for the stuff of the interior. So let's first go for this bed. And for the furniture, this pillow. Some stitches and these little shapes, then the rug, the book. You can see these are very stylized, simplified elements. And then of course the ladder. For the ladder we can use the quick line. So hold your pen in place to make a perfectly straight line. Then over here. Now I want to change it a little bit over here. I want to add a little rounded shape here because we are seeing this ladder in perspective. Maybe we should push this one down a little bit so it's covering that area. So a little rounded shape for each of the steps. And it's really okay if the lines are a little bit wobbly. We're not going for an ultra clean look. There, I think these stairs, they look perfect. Now for our little froggy guy. We are going to switch our color. We are going to grab this one, 6th color in the 3rd row. And let's first go for its face. Follow our sketch lines, add his eyes, his arm, little belly, and his shorts. And his little feet dangling here. And his smile. See, super simple frog. Let's add a line over here. By the way, we are using the 4th color in the 3rd row. And then let's fill this little gap. That's looking good. Now, I do feel like we need a little extra line on our frog. Let's go back to that green 6th color in the 3rd row. We need a little line here to separate its head from its body. You don't need to close the line, but we do need a little bit of separation. So now we have our lines. We can turn off our sketch layer, or you can remove those layers, and then it's time to add the color. To add our colors, we are going to set this line art layer to reference. So tap the layer and then turn on reference. And then underneath, we are going to add layers for the colors. So first tap this one and tap the plus. And then let's start with the color for the plant. That's this color, 5th color in the 1st row. Let's drag it in here. Now you might need to adjust the color drop threshold. You never know. Then in this area, like this. And you might need to check if you see any white areas. You can just use your brush, go over there and fill that so that it's nicely colored. You don't have any gaps. So just like that. Then for our tree trunk, let's do that on a layer underneath this one. So tap this one and tap the plus. And then for the color, we'll use this one, 4th color in the 1st row. Drag it in there. And again, you might need to check if you need to color anything. And then move on. Let's make a new layer on top of this one by tapping the plus. And then let's use this color, 3rd color in the 1st row, and we'll use that for our dirt. Now it has spilled a little bit, so we need to adjust the color drop threshold like this. Then we'll grab our brush and just go over some areas to make sure that everything is colored. Then for our pot, let's do that on a layer underneath this one and underneath the trunk. So let's go to this layer, then we'll tap the plus, and then for our color, we'll grab this one, 2nd color in the 1st row. Let's drag it in these areas and make sure that nothing spills. We can zoom in here and use continue filling and do those areas as well. Then grab the brush, fill this area, and make sure that you don't see any weird gaps like between its legs here. All right, let's move on. Let's work on the interior. Let's make a new layer on top of this one. And then let's first do the stairs with this color. That's the 3rd color in the 2nd row. Let's zoom in. Let's drag in the color. Make sure it doesn't spill. Then use continue filling and color these areas. Oh, that's spilling. Need to adjust the threshold again. Then grab the brush and fix anything that needs a little fixing. Want it to be nicely colored. And let's also use this color for the shorts. And now let's make another layer. Let's do that on a layer underneath this one. So first tap this one, then tap the plus, and then let's grab this color over here. We are going to use it for the wall there. So let's drag it in, then use the brush to adjust it a little bit. Then grab this color, 2nd color, and use that for the floor. I'll use continue filling and use the brush to brush up anything. Make sure that there are no weird gaps. Then on another layer, let's tap the plus. On another layer, let's do the furniture. Let's grab this color, 4th color in the 2nd row. Let's use that for the bed. use continue filling, tap, and use it for the pillow as well. And grab the brush, fix some stuff, and then let's use this color, the 5th color in the 2nd row for this thing over here and for the rug. Use the brush to fill some gaps. And then for the book, we'll use this color, 6th color in the 2nd row. There, use the brush for some gaps. And then finally, we need to do something for our frog. We need a new layer. Let's tap the plus. And then let's use this color for our froggy friend, the 7th color in the 2nd row. And let's just drag it in. Use continue filling for its legs. And use the brush to fill some gaps. Just like this. Oh, that's a bit too much. Keep it a little bit tidy. There. All right, now we have all our colors. Our illustration is already looking really nice, but I want to give it more of a painterly look, add some texture. I don't want it to be super clean. So first, let's start with our leaves, with our plants. Oh, let's also make sure that we turn off reference here. I'm not sure if we are going to fill anything in the future, but it's always handy because otherwise you can't fill any gaps anywhere. And then you'll be like, what? Why isn't it filling properly? So let's just turn it off. Now we'll go to our plant layer. We are going to turn on alpha lock so we can paint on here without going outside of the edges. And I want to start by just adding some texture. And I want to do that with one of the Flotastic brushes. We are going to use the leafy brush. And we will just have it set to the color of our leaves. So you can just tap and hold to grab it. And the opacity of this brush is at 100%. I have the size set to 74%. And let's just go over our plant and just add some basic textures. Just something like this. Then I want to switch to the Flow Darker brush. And we are going to use this to just add some shadow to our plant. Let's set the opacity to 30%. And let's set the size to, well, what shall we do? 70%. And for instance, over here, I'm going to imagine that the light is coming from this direction. So let's add some shadow underneath these wiggles. Just go along those edges. You don't have to be super tidy because I want it to look a little bit messy, a little bit painterly. Just underneath these edges. Underneath those little butt cheeks. And especially on the right side of our tree. I'm just making these bit of like wiggly motions. Adding some of that shadow. And then on the other hand, I also want to add some light, and we're going to use the Flow Lighter brush for that. Again, we'll make the opacity a bit low, 30%, and let's set the size to, let's set it to 50%. And now we'll add some light to these top parts. I'm making rounded motions again. So we'll have some light in the top areas and on the side, making rounded motions along those edges. Add a little bit over here and on these, but mostly on the left side. For the shadows, we focused on the right side, adding more shadow there. And for these lights, we'll add some more on the left side. Then let's add some texture to our tree bark. Let's go to layer 6. Let's turn on alpha lock here as well. You can do that by tapping the layer and turning on alpha lock, or you can swipe to the right with 2 fingers. for our tree trunk, let's grab the, where is it? The Barky brush. And let's just grab the color of our tree trunk. Which one was it? That's this one. Fourth color in the first row. Now, the opacity of this brush is at 100% and the size is at 5%. And let's just go over here, add a little bit of texture, not too much. Something like this is fine. A little bit more at the top. And then I would also like to add some light, and let's do that with the Lighten Line 2 brush. The opacity of this brush is at 80% and the size is at 20%. And let's zoom in just a little bit and let's add some bark-like lines, just like the line art we created. Just a little bit of wiggles, some lines, just something like this. It can really be this simple. And then for our dirt on this layer, let's again turn on alpha lock. So tap it and turn on alpha lock or swipe to the right with 2 fingers. And then again, let's first use the Flow Darker brush. Grab the local color of the dirt. And then let's add some shadow here on the right side, for example. That tree is casting some shadow on the dirt, and here that pot is also casting a little bit of shadow here. Just a little bit, and now we'll move on to the Flow Lighter brush. And we can use that to add some rounded shapes, rounded wiggles, to just add some light touches, little dabs. I think something like this looks fine. Then we'll move on to the pot. We have it over here on layer 8. Let's turn on alpha lock. And then again, let's first start with the Flow Darker brush. Let's grab the local color and let's start by adding some shadow to the inside here. Because there is some shadow. I feel like the shadow is a little bit too warm. Let's grab the line color, which is a bit more brownish. There, that makes it a little bit darker. And let's also do that on the right side of the pot. Using very gentle pressure. And I think it's okay if it's looking a little bit blotchy. You see the brush strokes a little bit. It adds some character to our illustration and makes it look a bit more painterly. You could also use watercolor brushes for this, for instance. Or you can try different styles of rendering, of course. I think this looks good. Now let's switch to the Flow Lighter brush. Now let's grab the local color again. Let's go along the top because light is hitting there. It's hitting that top part of our pot. And here on the side, we'll have some light. And on this side, just a little bit. This is already adding so much to the illustration. It already is looking so different. Now for the inside of our pot here. Let's first go to layer 10, tap it, turn on alpha lock, and then let's start with the Flow Darker brush again. I think we can stick with this color. We need some shadow over here on the inside of this little pot. Here we have some shadow. And of course behind our frog, he's also casting a shadow. I think this is fine. Then switch to the Flow Lighter brush for just a tiny touch of light on this edge. Just something like this. And this adds a nice color variety. Then move on to the furniture. Tap the layer, tap alpha lock. We can just zoom in a little bit. And then let's move to the Flow Darker brush again. And for the color, let's grab this one. Fourth color in the second row. That's the color of the bed and the pillow. Let's add a little bit of shadow over here as well, because that bed is in shadow. And the cabinet here. A little bit underneath the pillow. Just something like this. Then we'll switch to the Flow Lighter brush and do the same for the highlights. A little bit over here, a little bit on the pillow. You can make the brush a little bit smaller. Let's go for 20%. So on top of the pillow and on this blanket or this little rug. I do feel like maybe we could add a little bit more interest to that rug. I want to go to the line art layer, layer 4. We'll switch back to our line art brush. Let's go to recent here at the top. Use the fine liner. Grab the color that we need. That's this one, 5th color in the 3rd row. And let's just add a few of these lines. Just these diagonal lines to add a little bit of a pattern to this rug. I think it looks more interesting this way. Now let's move on to our little froggy friend on layer 12. Tap the layer, turn on alpha lock. Let's go back to the Flowtastic brushes and use the Flow Darker brush first. We'll grab the frog's color. That's the 7th color in the 2nd row. Let's zoom in a little bit, add a bit of shadow on the right side of the frog. Let's make the brush smaller, 15%. Just a little bit of shadow. Then we'll move to the Flow Lighter brush and we'll add some light to its face, rounded motions, a little bit on its belly, top of its legs, this side of its arm, and I want to add a little bit of light around its eyes. Let's grab the Lights and Line brush for that. Now let's go around its eyes, just like this. I think that looks nice. Then let's move on to layer 9. That's the layer with red. Let's tap it, turn on alpha lock. Then let's grab the Flow Darker brush and the local color. And then add a little bit of shadow here to the right side of its pants. Perhaps a little bit of shadow on one side of the stairs. A little bit on the underside here. Then we'll switch to the Flow Lighter brush and we'll add a touch of light here to the top of its legs. Maybe this side of the stairs, just a little bit. This is already looking great. Let's add a drop shadow now, for instance, for our pot. Let's do that on a new layer. Let's tap the plus. Let's drag this underneath the others. Then for the color, let's grab this one over here. That's the 7th color in the 3rd row. And for the brush, we can just use, well, we can use the illustration, fine liner brush. Or you can also use the monoline brush, whatever, just a clean brush. Let's make an oval like this. We can use edit here at the top. And then make something like this. Then drag in the color. And at this point, you'll be happy that that other layer isn't set to reference anymore. Otherwise, this would just spill all over. Now that we have this, we are going to use a blur. Let's go to the magic wand and use the motion blur. And then we'll slide in this direction, like this, a little bit like this. And then we'll go back. So now it's at 43%. Then we'll go back, tap the magic wand and tap it again, and then use Gaussian blur. Then we'll slide to the right again and go for something like this, 20%. And there's a little bit of blur and a little bit of shadow here in the front. So let's just grab the eraser and erase that. And I want it to go along the side of the pot like this. We'll just erase this here. And then I need that to blur even more. So let's go back to Gaussian blur, slide to the right, so that it looks something like this. Now we can also go to the layer menu. Oh, by the way, it's at 9% for me. Then we can go to the layer menu. Let's zoom out a little bit. We can tap the N and lower the opacity a little bit. Let's go for 88%. Now for some final touches, I want to add some light rays. Those are always fun to add. So let's create a new layer on top of all the others. So these light rays will also influence our line art. Let's tap the plus. Let's tap the N and set this layer to screen. Then for our color, we are going to grab this one over here, first color in the third row. And then let's go to the selection tool, the S shape ribbon. Let's set it to color fill and to freehand. And now we are going to add some light rays. Tap here, then tap over here, here, and then back. That's one. Then make another one. Go back here, close it. And you can vary the width of these rays. So something like this. Then you can actually also go to the move and transform tool, the little arrow. You can change the light rays a little bit, use distort. So you get something that you like. So something like this, for instance. Then you can go to the magic wand, tap Gaussian blur, slide to the right, and make these light rays nice and blurry. Then we'll also go to the layer menu. We'll tap the S and lower the opacity. Let's set it to, well, let's say 39, 40%. Oh, 39. No, let's do 40. And then tap the layer and give it a layer mask. Now we are going to remove some of these parts. Let's grab a brush. And for instance, we can use the basic flow brush. Let's go to the basic set, use the basic flow brush, set it to black. And for instance, there won't be any light rays on the right side here. Let's make the brush bigger. 35%, the opacity is at 100. And let's just remove a part here on the right side. And here on the right side of our tree, because that tree that's blocking the light here. And here on the underside. Need to go all the way to this side. Let's also grab the soft brush under airbrushing to erase a part here. I have the opacity set to 60% and the size at 40. So like that. Then back to the basic flow brush. Let's see if we need to remove anything else. Well, like on the inside of the house. You don't need any light rays there. I think this is looking pretty good. Let's just check it out, the before and after. This looks nice. Now let's also add some extra light touches by adding another screen layer. So tap the plus and tap the N. Set it to screen, and we can actually keep using the basic flow brush. Maybe make it a little bit smaller, 25%, and add some of these dabs to the tree, for instance. Just some light brush strokes, because those sun rays, they are hitting the tree here, creating that light effect. This is just a nice extra touch. You could also add a little bit of extra light to the pot Or maybe to the little frog guy. It's like painting with light this way. A little bit on the tree maybe. No, that's too much, I think. So just something like this. Then finally, let's add another layer. Tap the plus. Again, set this to screen. So tap the N, set it to screen. And then we are going to go to the luminance brushes. Where are they? Over here. And use the light pen. For this brush, the opacity is set to 100% and the size is at 25. And now let's just add some sparkles in random spots in those sun rays. I always love adding those final little sparkles to add a little magical touch to our scene. Look how happy our little frog is. Enjoying the sunshine here in his perfect house that you created for him. So just some sparkles until you feel like it has enough. I think I have enough sparkle here. Then let's pinch out, tap 4 fingers on the screen and enjoy our illustration. I hope you had fun creating this isometric plant. I sure did. I get these nice summer vibes looking at this little frog. So I'm really looking forward to seeing your versions. Don't forget to share them. I would like to thank you for watching. Thank you for being here and I will see you next time for the next tutorial.